this lesson, we're going to learn how to use a Syncfusion Radial Gauge package. Syncfusion Flutter Gauge is a package that helps you to view your data in circular scale. Unlike a chart or a data table, Radial Gauge allows you to check your current status with a goal. Set a maximum limit of a value that can be trained and check your status. At the end of this lesson, you will understand how to use SF Radial Gauge and how to customize a gauge with multiple properties. Today, we are going to learn about Syncfusion Flutter Gauge and SF Radial Gauge widget. Syncfusion Flutter Gauge is a gauge library. You can visualize data in a linear gauge or radial gauge. In this lesson, we will learn how to visualize your data in a radial gauge. Let's get into it. To use Syncfusion Flutter Gauge, let's first import the package, like this in line number 2. After importing the package, let's use SF Radial Gauge, which is a widget from the package. Now let's start customizing a gauge in detail. When you load a gauge on your app, you can load it with or without animation effect. If you want an animation effect while a gauge is loading, then you can set Enable Loading Animation as true like this. When it's true, you can also set the duration of the animation. If you change the duration time from 4500 to 1000, the animation will be loaded faster than this. Now let's customize a radial axis. Since gauge shows a percentage and a range of status, we need minimum and maximum value to be shown, like this. A total range of the gauge is created depending on the minimum and maximum values you set. Now, we can split total range into multiple sub-ranges, like here. Gauge range refers to sub-ranges of total range. We will show you how to set gauge range with one example. First, we need to set start value and end value like this. These two values works as minimum value and maximum value of the sub-range. And you can set the color of each sub-range. In range, you can choose a start with and end with too. In our example, start with has the same value with the end value. If you want to know what happens if those two values are different, then you can try to change end width to 20. In the gauge, you can check the current status in range. We call it gauge pointer. In gauge pointer, you can set a needle pointer and marker pointer. Currently, those two pointers have the same value as 90, like this. If you want to see a difference, then you can try to change marker pointer to 120. Then you will see the difference. You can see the value with pointer, but you might also want to print it out. Then you can use gauge annotation. There are several properties you can set in gauge annotation for you. First, you can set annotation widget with the style you define, and you can also set an angle of annotation widget. Currently, the angle is 90, like this, and is located under the needle, like here. If you change the angle to 180, you will see the annotation has moved to the left side of the needle. Think of the needles as center of a clock, and angle 0 starts from the right side of the needle, then angle value rotates circular around the needle. And you can also set the position factor like this. If you set it to 0, then it will be located right on the start position of the needle. But if you increase this value to 0.5 like this, or 1, you will see that it moved the bottom accordingly. Lastly, you can set the title of the gauge using gauge title, like this. You can set text as title, like this, and you can set the text style of title. Today, we've learned about customizing Radial Gauge. We recommend you to try customizing Radial Gauge in your own environment. Also, you can try to customize linear gauge by yourself. It will improve your skills a lot. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson.